President Trump's plan to freeze $10 billion in federal money for 5 Democratic states has hit a roadblock. A federal judge on Friday halted the administration's policy that would stop funding for child care subsidies, social services, and other programs for hundreds of thousands of families in California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. Trump's Department of Health and Human Services said it was paused due to widespread fraud that it has yet to provide evidence of. The judge's decision expires in 2 weeks and is meant to give the states and the administration time to submit more extensive legal arguments on whether those cuts should be allowed. Joining us now is Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Mayor Bass, thanks for joining us this morning.
Sure, thanks for having me on.
I want to start out with this breaking news of a federal judge blocking Trump's attempt to freeze $10 billion in child care funds to your state. What's your response to this?
Yes, well, all I have to say is thank goodness. And I think that we're beginning to see what I hope is a trend, which is a pushback from the judiciary, because for Los Angeles or state of California to withstand those cuts is devastating. And how do you justify cuts to 5 states, and what do they all have in common? So it's just the ridiculousness of this administration and their desire to essentially seek revenge on Democratic states.
Mayor Bass, thank you for being here, especially since it is 5 in the morning, 5 in the morning there in Los Angeles. I'm going to pull up this story from yesterday's New York Times. Agents in Trump's immigration crackdown have fired at vehicles at least 10 times. And the story reports Maryland, Chicago, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, and now Portland. And the report also goes on to say many of the country's largest cities, including New York and Los Angeles, have banned police officers from shooting at moving vehicles except in rare circumstances, such as a driver shooting at the police or a terrorist driving into a crowd. I bring all that up to set the context of my question, and that is this. We've all been watching what's been happening in Minneapolis. What advice do you have for Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for the situation that he is in, given you've been dealing with ICE in your city for much longer than he has?
Right, exactly. And the raids in Los Angeles, by the way, continue until this day. And I've listened to his remarks. I think he's been strong. I think the people of Minneapolis have also been strong. It's so important for there to be very strong resistance to this. Can you imagine if these things were taking place and there were no protests? But we also have to be extremely careful that the protests are peaceful, because the first thing the administration wants is for there to be violence. But, Jonathan, I want to raise another issue that I think is really frightening. The fact that you have these ICE agents or Custom and Border Patrol agents around our country, and they're in cities like, for example, in Los Angeles, where we have different standards of policing. So you're not supposed to fire. It's not okay to fire on a car in Los Angeles. But when a federal agent comes in, basically there's no rules. The other thing is that they are recruiting tens of thousands of people. They're fast tracking them through the process. You have to question the background checks and the training, and then they're all over the country. What happened in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve was an off-duty ICE agent who killed a LA resident, Keith Porter. And so we have these agents that are there in uniform, and when they're off duty, what does it mean? What is their behavior when they're off duty? So I think this really is an indication of a lot of fear to come. One, when they are on duty and they have no idea where they are, no idea of the culture or the standards of that city, and frankly don't care. And then what happens and what standards and rules do they follow when they're off duty?
Mayor Bass, it has been a year, at least a year at this point, until the exact date, since the fires in Palisades and Altadena last year. And there has, when you look at what has happened and how it changes a community, I covered fires in Colorado Springs for years when I was in local TV. It changes a community completely. So, one, I'd love to hear your reflections a year later, and also, this is obviously the recovery is not without controversy. So, what are you and the administration doing to kind of speed up the process so people can start rebuilding and getting their homeless back together?
Well, thank you for saying that. And this is a very difficult week in Los Angeles. The anniversary of the fires was Wednesday, January 7th. But just think about this. You have the anniversary of the fires, but it's right after the holidays. And so people had to go through the holidays without having a home to go to. And holidays are difficult in normal circumstances. So I think it's like a double trauma. And it really has been a year of trauma after trauma. And having said that, in terms of the rebuilding is actually going on fast. But I also have to say that if you're out of your home, it doesn't help to say that things are going fast. But the reality is we have approved over 800 homes to be rebuilt. We have over 400 homes that are under construction now. And understand also that the first 4 months after the fire was really about debris removal, dealing with the toxins, which wasn't done well. And so it's been about 8 solid months in the recovery period. We have much more to do. But one of the things that I've done is signed a number of executive orders, about 13, looking for every possible way, every possible area of red tape to cut, to fast track, and to expedite. But until somebody's home, it will never be fast enough.
LA Mayor Karen Bass, thank you so much, and take care of your community as the rebuilding continues.